Muy buenas amigas, amigos y bienvenidos. Otro capítulo más de Agatha Christie, Asesinato en el Orient Express. Vale, familia, ya hablamos con el... Me saldrá el nombre, no me saldrá. La madre que me parió. Con el revisor, ¿vale, familia? Y vamos a entrar aquí. Que se escuchaba como unos ruidos ahí, no sé por qué. Vamos a ver qué hay.
Monsieur Hardman, excellent. The gods who watch over detectives must have trapped you here.
Why didn't they watch over me? I'm a detective too. I was talking to Michelle about a leaky faucet, and I wanted to go out, but you showed up.
No need to invent some preposterous story.
But really,
Michelle has told me everything. You are the fiancé of Suzanne Moreau, his daughter.
Oh. I see.
Surely this is not a big surprise to you.
No. Suzanne was the only woman I ever loved. And I failed her. We got into a spat. It was nothing, but I was too proud to apologize. We weren't speaking at all. Suzanne never really cared for that guy, Noah. She would have forgiven me. If only... If only...
If only. A common refrain between lovers who quarrel. Obviously, Pierre Michel and Fräulein Schmidt both drugged Detective Locke's tea, causing the overdose. No wonder she had so much trouble waking
Ya
up.
te digo.
Time to report my findings to her and Book.
Vale, vamos a hablar con Book. Vaya tela, con que este era el prometido, ¿vale? De la niñera, ¿vale, familia? Book tiene que estar por aquí. Madre mía, esto parece el Sálvame Deluxe, familia. Vale, a Book lo tenemos aquí. What?
So, my friend, tell me, you have something new?
Tranquilizantes.
Mademoiselle Locke, I know who drugged you. Fräulein Schmidt and our conductor, Pierre Michel, both admitted putting sleeping pills into your tea. This explains your overdose. They are relieved you are recovering.
Michel drugged a passenger? On behalf of the company, I offer my apologies to you, Mademoiselle Locke. Michel will answer for this outrage.
Both of them? I was pretty sure about Fräulein Schmidt, but I admit that I did not suspect the conductor.
I have uncovered multiple connections with the Armstrong case. Pierre Michel is the father of Suzanne Moreau, little Daisy's nanny, and Monsieur Hardman was Suzanne's fiancé.
El padre y el prometido.
As for Hildegard Schmidt, she was the cook.
Y la
of
otra
the
la
Armstrong
cocinera.
family. What a coincidence, don't you think?
But it's incredible! What are the odds that so many people linked to that tragic affair ended up on the same train?
About the same as you winning the lottery, my friend.
I wasn't the officer who interviewed Fräulein Schmidt back then, so she couldn't recognize me here on the train. How could they know who I was?
There were other passengers who might have. Or she may have seen you when you visited the Armstrong home. It is now clear to me that some of the clues to this elaborate plot were staged for my benefit.
Vale, ¿qué es lo que querían que creyese? Que el asesino subió al tren en Binkopsy, mató a Ratchet y bajó inmediatamente. Que el asesino se embarcó en el tren en Binkopsy, mató a Ratchet y sigue en el tren. O que el asesino subió al tren en Estambul, mató a Ratchet y se bajó en Belgrado.
Think, Poirot.
No, es la
That is
arriba.
not a good answer.
Exacto.
I'm right again. That happens to me a lot.
Magnífico. Muy bien.
Some clues and information collected so far could lead to a hypothesis. The murderer boarded the train in Vinkovsky, killed Ratchet, and then left the train immediately.
How did you come to that possibility?
Monsieur Hardman told me about a short man with a high-pitched voice who threatened Ratchet. Imagine for a moment that this man wearing a wagon-ly conductor's jacket, killed him while Michel was on the platform at Vinkovsky. This murderer then hid the conductor's jacket in Detective Locke's room, then fled before the train left.
Why choose Detective Locke's room?
Why, indeed. Let me re-explain from the beginning.
Vale, reconstruye los eventos de la pista falsa. Vale, el asesino sube al tren disfrazado de revisor. Vale, el tren se detiene en Vinkovsky, ¿no? A medianoche, el señor Michel baja del andén. El asesino sube Vale, el asesino sube. Vale. El asesino mata, ¿no? Sería... El asesino deja la chaqueta. Este aquí. Espérate, el asesino baja del tren. Y este sube, a ver.
I must admit I'm not right this time.
Vale, entonces, ¿puede ser por esta? Sí, vale, perfecto.
That was easy.
Vale.
Mon Dieu! Oui! That must be it! Everything fits so well!
It fits too well, my friend. Other clues lead to a second hypothesis, much more plausible.
¿Cuál es la hipótesis más probable? Hubo varios asesinos que escaparon en Vinkovsky. Hay varios asesinos que querían el dinero de Ratchet. Hay varios asesinos, todos relacionados con el caso Armstrong. Ese es.
That's the right answer. So, we have multiple murderers, all related to the Armstrong case. The murderer from Vinkovsky was a fabrication to turn suspicion away from those on the train. They expected the investigation to be led by some small-town official who could easily be misled.
Mr. Poirot?
Detective Locke, forgive me. You are an obvious exception. You tracked Ratchet with the tenacity of a bloodhound. Unfortunately for the killers, they not only had you to deal with, but now they had, and I say this with all modesty, the world's greatest detective, Hércules Poirot, dropped into the midst of their meticulous planning.
Multiple murderers? Multiple detectives? Poirot, please take pity on me. Who is linked to this case and who is not?
My poor friend, I have gone speeding out of the station without you. I will continue.
Buah. Hay gente, ¿eh? ¿Quiénes son las 9 personas que sé que están relacionadas con el caso Armstrong? Vale. Natalia. Pierre Michel. Hector McQueen. Cyrus Hartman. Elena. ¿Cuántos llevamos? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. A ver, Samuel Ratchet. Me imagino que sí, ¿no? Hildred Smith. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. A ver.
I must admit I'm not right this time.
2 personas por identificar. Vale. Sería Joanna Locke. ¿Y el Foscarelli? Sí. Vale.
That
Perfecto.
was easy.
Perfect.
Fräulein Schmidt, Pierre Michel, Monsieur Hardman, and Monsieur McQueen are all linked to the Armstrong case. I also know that Sonia Armstrong's sister and godmother, Countess Andreni and Princess Dragomirov, are on this train. And finally, Detective Locke discovered that Mr. Foscarelli was the Armstrong
El chofer de los Armstrong.
If we add Detective Luck and Ratchet, of the 12 passengers in that coach, 9 have a connection with the Armstrong case. What next, Poirot? Or should I say, who next?
Ahora
It is
quién.
time to summon everyone.
Everyone? Even Dr. Constantine? The train crew other than Michel?
Dr. Constantine, yes. I will need him. But we don't want the others as witnesses.
I will see that their duties keep them occupied elsewhere.
Excellent. I have always thought this moment in a case is much like Rodin unveiling the thinker before a captivated audience. A work of art. Have you not felt that way, Detective?
No, Mr. Poirot. I'm happy just to slap the cuffs on him.
Well, there is some artistry in that as well, I suppose.
Where would you like the unveiling, Poirot? The lounge?
Perfect.
Then I will gather all the passengers in the lounge.
En el salón. Vale. Vale, pues al salón, ¿no? Todavía seguimos paraditos. Vale, ir al vagón del salón. Vale, estamos en el bar. Aquí. Vale, este es el bar. Estábamos en el restaurante. Está guardando. Vale. Vagón del salón, familia. Resuelve el asesinato en el Orient Express.
Monsieur Book, are the train crew locked in their quarters?
Yes, they are.
Then the stage is set for the final act. Ladies and gentlemen, I have gathered you together to hear my reconstruction of the murder of Samuel Edward Ratchet, also known as Cassetti. There is not one, but 2 possible solutions of the crime. I shall put them both before you, and I shall ask Monsieur Bouc and Dr. Constantine here to judge which solution is the correct one.
2 solutions?
Mr. Poirot, I am hardly qualified.
Nevertheless, your assistance is required.
Se pone la cosa interesante.
Now, you all know the facts of the case. Ratchet was found stabbed to death this morning. He was last known to be alive at 12:37 a.m. last night, when he spoke to the wagon-lit conductor through the door. His watch was found to be badly dented, and it had stopped at 1:15. Dr. Constantine, who examined the body, puts the time of death as having occurred between midnight and 2 in the morning. At half an hour after midnight, as you all know, the train ran into a snowdrift. After that time, it was impossible for anyone to leave the train. So, here is my first theory. The enemy, as Ratchet expected, joined the train at Vinkovsky by the door left open by Captain Arbuthnot and Monsieur McQueen, who had just descended to the platform. He was equipped with a wagon-lit jacket, which he wore over his ordinary clothes, and a pass key which enabled him to gain access to Ratchet's compartment in spite of the doors being locked. Ratchet was under the influence of a sleeping draught. This man stabbed him with great ferocity, 12 wounds in all. He left the compartment through the communicating door to Madame Hubbard's compartment.
Yes, that's so. Scared me half out of my wits.
The murderer thrust the dagger he had used into Mrs. Hubbard's handbag in passing. Without knowing it, he lost a button of his uniform. Then he slipped out of the compartment and along the corridor. He put the uniform jacket into Detective Locke's suitcase to cast suspicion on her. And a few minutes later, dressed in his ordinary clothes, he left the train just before it started off again, using the same means for egress, the door near the dining car.
Poco agachar en la cabeza.
That is the first hypothesis. But there's a second.
Venga, la segunda.
We must examine the motive for the crime. Why was Ratchet killed?
¿Cuál era el móvil del crimen? ¿Venganza o dinero?
No, Poirot.
No.
Think again.
Sí,
Nothing
es la
was
venganza.
stolen from the crime
Iba a poner
scene.
venganza, ¿eh?
The motive is clear. Revenge, of course. Nothing was stolen. And we know that Ratchet had made many enemies. This was a premeditated crime, meticulously planned. Since the kidnapping and death of little Daisy Armstrong, which traumatized many people close to the family. Even when the police concluded that it was Suzanne Moreau, questions remained. Detective Locke continued her investigation, as did others. They became convinced the truth lay elsewhere. We now know who the real murderer of Daisy is. It is clear now that Daisy's killer was Ratchet, also known as Cassetti and Michael Clark and how many other names. But of course, many of you have known this for a long time. It is obvious that the 12 stab wounds are not a random number. Dr. Constantine's analysis revealed that some stab wounds appeared to have been caused by a right-handed attacker. Others indicated the knife wielder was left-handed. Some wounds were deep, more than one fatal. Yet others were not much more than mere scratches. What can explain these discrepancies? This leads us to an obvious conclusion. They are symbolic.
Vale, es la del jurado. ¿Verdad? Daisy era más pequeña, coño.
12 stabs. 12! The same number as a trial jury in the United States. But not just a jury of 12 members condemning him to death, but 12 executioners as well. This self-appointed jury had meticulously planned for everything except
Snow.
snow. The avalanche that stopped us, as well as the presence of not one but two detectives on the train. They had to improvise, to hastily add clues and false leads. This woman in a red kimono does not exist.
No
I
existe.
don't know which of the passengers it was. It does not really matter. It was just a performance, a charade to introduce another possible culprit to muddy the waters. The time on Ratchet's broken watch was deliberately set to conceal the true time of the crime. The vial of vaping liquid incriminated Captain Arbuthnot. However, he had a solid alibi confirmed by Monsieur McQueen. Impossible then to suspect him. The conductor's jacket, found in Detective Locke's suitcase, was put there only to cast suspicion upon her. All these false leads were intended for me. But I am Poirot. I understood the truth. We have a train full of suspects. It's time to identify who the real culprits are. Let's start with Detective Locke.
Vale, apuñalar al inspector Locke a Ratchet.
Planting the conductor's jacket in her suitcase was an attempt to implicate Detective Locke, but she couldn't fake her drugged condition. Dr. Constantine can testify that the drugged tea incapacitated her for hours, and she had 2 relapses. Let us move on to Monsieur McQueen.
McQueen.
When I told him about Cassetti, he looked very surprised that I managed to make the connection between him and the Armstrong case. He told me, "But I thought we had..." I think he meant... You thought you didn't leave any real clues linking the murder to the Armstrong kidnapping. Moreover, you insisted that Ratchet did not speak French when you knew I had heard a voice calling out in French that was supposed to be Ratchet.
¿Apuñalar al señor McQueen? Yo creo que no.
I do not think that's the right
pues sí.
answer. You took some pleasure in leaving me false clues, I think.
Por el
It was quite
padre.
annoying. But you told me yourself that your father was the district attorney who handled the Armstrong case.
The case haunted my father. At first, he believed Suzanne Moreau had helped her boyfriend, Noah, to kidnap Daisy, even though there were questions that went unanswered, and a young policewoman refused to let it go, continuing to find discrepancies, but never enough to reopen the official investigation.
That policewoman sits there. Her name is Joanna Locke.
Then tell him. Tell him how in the end my father believed you, how he resigned a job that he loved, racked with guilt that he may have let that monster go free. He died young, broken, his faith in justice broken. That's what Ratchet did to him.
Thank you for your honesty, Monsieur McQueen. Your father is one more victim of the man who called himself Ratchet. Now, I will turn to Ratchet's valet, Monsieur Masterman.
Masterman. El mozo de Ratchet, dolor de muela, los tranquilizantes de Ratchet.
No,
No. Los tranquilizantes puede ser.
But I don't think the pain would have driven Monsieur Masterman so mad
Vale.
as to kill Ratchet. Monsieur Foscarelli was a closer target. If Masterman had murder
Vale.
on his mind. Ratchet sensed danger close to him and naturally wanted to stay awake. You gave him sleeping pills without his knowledge. Once he was sound asleep, you could do what you had to do in peace.
Sir, I'll tell you the truth. I was Colonel Armstrong's adjutant in the war, sir, and afterwards, I was his valet in New York. I'm afraid I concealed the fact this morning. It was very wrong of me, sir, but I knew how suspicious it would look.
Is that all you have to say?
That's all, sir.
Now, to leave no suspicious stone unturned,
Pasemos a
let us
Monsieur
move
Book.
on to Monsieur Book.
What? Me? A suspicious stone?
Yo creo que no.
His lofty position as director does not...
Su amigo, ¿por qué entonces?
Murderers can come in all shapes and sizes. Book, my friend,
Vale.
of course you are not guilty. You did everything you could to get me on this train. What madness would cause you to ensure, and I speak with all modesty, that the best detective in the world could be present to witness it?
Hablando desde la
But
molestia,
doesn't our friendship count as well?
Most assuredly, but A murderer can wear all sorts of masks, including friendship. Let us consider our ever-efficient wagon-lit conductor,
Pierre Michel.
Pierre Michel.
Drogó a la señorita Luke, miembro del personal, padre de la señorita Moreau.
No, that
No, pues
is
entonces
his
¿por qué
motive.
drogó?
I need real, tangible proof.
Va.
Your admission that you drugged Detective Locke immediately incriminates you. But the murder could not have been possible without your very capable assistance. Your knowledge of train procedures made the murder possible, and your position in the corridor of the train allowed you to be the perfect alibi for several passengers. And your motive? Suzanne Moreau, Daisy Armstrong's poor nanny, who was wrongly accused and committed suicide, was your daughter.
C'est un foiré. He got what he deserved. My poor daughter has finally been avenged. My Suzanne. My child.
Let's move on now to Monsieur Hardman, one of 3 detectives on this train. I speak for all
Vale,
detectives.
vale.
when I
Joder,
say
macho,
the
estoy que
fact
no doy
that
ni
Mr.
una hora.
Hardman is a detective does not make him a murderer.
Vale, espérate.
Monsieur Hardman, I think you are a real detective, but you were never hired by Ratchet. Your alibi was that you were watching the corridor to protect Ratchet, which, of course, you never did. You protected Pierre Michel. However, we just saw that his alibi doesn't hold up, so neither does yours.
I don't know about the conductor.
Being Suzanne's fiancé, you had a substantial motive to punish Ratchet. You used your detective skills, just as Detective Locke did, to hunt him down and finally avenge the death of your beloved.
That's right, Mr. Poirot. I do have some detective skills.
I never doubted it. Now, Fraulein Schmidt, the lady's maid with the soul of a cook. Although she tried to
No.
protect the princess,
Vale,
by
será porque
presenting her
drogó.
with the embroidered handkerchief, that's not evidence she committed
Porque drogó,
murder.
familia.
Fraulein Schmidt, you told me of your remorse for drugging Detective Locke. I believe you are sincere. However, as the cook of the Armstrong family, you experienced the drama from within. The death of Daisy, then Sonia Armstrong, who died in childbirth, and finally, Suzanne and John Armstrong.
So much misfortune in that poor family. The death of this criminal is only justice.
Let us move on to Countess Andreni. I was impressed by the earnestness of her husband when he swore to me solemnly on his honor that his wife never left her compartment that night. Should I believe it?
Yo creo que no,
Even
¿eh?
if it seems logical, it's more complicated than that. I believe Countess Andreni.
No, condesa no. Es la hermana.
On the contrary,
No,
this
vale.
fact
Joder,
gives her a
anda que
motive
voy
for
bien.
murder.
Moralmente.
Countess Andreni, being Sonia Armstrong's sister, you had every reason in the world to want to avenge her. But you were incapable of stabbing someone, even after what he had done to you and your family. The night of the crime, you simply took a sleeping pill. I appreciate the irony that nearby, Detective Locke was also in a drugged sleep. When you awoke, you thought the nightmare was over.
Rudolph?
Hush, my love. Hush.
Excellent transition. I was coming to you, Count Andreni.
Puede ser que sí.
12 people, a jury. This was very important to all of you. If Countess Andrény did not stab Ratchet, someone had to take her place. And you, Count, the beloved husband. I've seen how fiercely you love and protect your wife.
Enough! I would do anything for Helena. Anything. Even that.
Yes, even that. Let's move on to Monsieur Foscarelli.
Foscarelli. Yo creo que no. Creo,
I
¿eh?
do not...
Joder. Pues sí.
Detective Locke found out that you were the Armstrong chauffeur and that you planned to travel on the same train at the same time as Ratchet. That is what made her decide to obtain a ticket as well. Unfortunately, she could not prevent the murder. Have you lost your tongue, Mr. Foscarelli?
Sí.
Oh, Daisy. She was the delight of the house.
Tonio.
Tonio, she called me. And she would sit in the car and pretend to drive me.
And you, Mademoiselle Olson.
Olson.
A champion for the immigrants. A worthy calling.
Espero no equivocarme.
Do not...
Joder. La cuarta, el pestillo.
Mademoiselle Olson, you supported Madame Hubbard's story about her connecting door latch. A story that I later demonstrated to be impossible. So, you deliberately lied to me, and you also lied about Mademoiselle Debenham's whereabouts.
Enough! I can't take this anymore.
Ahora no lo
what you
soporta.
want from me, Mr. Poirot. Very well. Here it is. She was my little Daisy, my angel, so patient. When I patched a scrape or took her temperature, that was my job. But she was so much more to me. She was a shining light in an ever-darkening world. I've tried to honor her by caring for children who have lost everything.
Thank you, Mademoiselle Olson. You too shed light on your part in this mystery. You were Daisy Armstrong's nurse. I will ask you no more questions. It is enough that you have admitted what I know to be the truth, and I understand. Let's move on.
Doctor.
Dr. Constantine.
You suspect me? I know none of these people. I didn't know Ratchet either. And I've taken a solemn oath to help people, not murder them.
No.
You are one of the few people in this room not to have any connection with the Armstrong case. Moreover, your alibi is confirmed by Monsieur Bouc, whom I would trust with my life.
That is very
Mon
kindly
ami.
said, my friend.
We now come to Mademoiselle Debenham and Captain Arbuthnot, whose relationship was not in doubt from the moment I inspected your room at the hotel.
You have a bloody nerve.
Indeed, I do.
We're getting married.
Congratulations. But I would rather talk about your relationship to John Armstrong.
El vínculo entre el capitán Arbuthnot y John Armstrong. Cocinero, primo, hermano, chofer, soldados, jardinero. Soldados.
That's the right answer. Captain Arbuthnot, you served in the army with John Armstrong. What I don't understand is why a man your age is still a captain. One might expect you to be a colonel as well.
Ever fought in a war, Poirot?
It was war that first brought me to England.
Then you know what it's like. There's a shattering sound, and death, and mistakes, acting on intelligence that proved to be wrong.
sent a patrol to their death. Good men, brave men, wasted. John testified on my behalf at a court-martial. I'm not a colonel. I don't deserve to be, you bloody fool. But I'm also not in prison. John remained my best friend until... There, you have my story. Understand now?
Archie, calm down, please.
You're right, Mary. What you see in me, I don't understand.
Oh, Archie, I see in you what John saw.
Miss Debenham, I'm sorry.
My turn, is it?
I'm afraid so. And you have caused me quite a puzzlement. Your connection with the Armstrong family was not obvious. Then I remembered the job you currently hold.
¿Qué vínculo la señorita Debenham con la familia Armstrong? Profesora.
That's the right answer.
Magnífico.
You were the teacher of...
De Daisy.
No, she was the teacher of Countess Andrény. You were the teacher of
De
Helena Andrény, whose maiden name was Helena Goldenberg before she married Count
Goldenberg.
Andrény.
Yes, absolutely. Why lie to you? She was an excellent student.
Joder, macho, es que parecen casi de la misma edad, por eso he dicho de la niña, ¿sabes?
Captain Arbuthnot.
Líquido del cigarrillo, militar, el testimonio. No. Vale. El testimonio. No por lo del militar.
You had one of the strongest alibis, thanks to Mr. McQueen. But his testimony melted like a snowflake. There went your alibi. Poof. Unless you have another one. As for you, Mademoiselle Debenham.
Yo creo que no.
I do not...
Pues sí, joder, aquí todos son palabras, el testimonio de la señora Olson.
Yes, I remember overhearing Mademoiselle Debenham talking with the captain at Circuitry Station. She said, "Not now, not
Dijo ahora
now,
no, cuando todo
when
haya
it's all
terminado."
over." That's significant in light of what we now know, but not enough to incriminate her. Mademoiselle Olson was the only one who could confirm your alibi. I think you know where you stand.
Very good, Mr. Poirot. Are you satisfied?
I will be soon. Now I must turn to Sonia Armstrong's godmother, Princess Dragomirov.
Dragomirov.
Princess Dragomirov, you weren't on my list of suspects at the start, given your social position.
I left my social position in a cold country.
Do you object to being addressed as Princess?
I deny people the opportunity. It makes a good story to tell their friends. It also guarantees a good table in the best restaurants.
Princess, there is also, forgive me, your extreme physical fragility.
It does not stop me when I must be strong.
Indeed. Of more importance, though, is the fact that you're the only left-handed person on the train. And the single blow to ratchet from a left-handed person was very, forgive me, weak.
Muy débil.
Finally, I'm afraid I know the alibi that you shared with Fräulein Schmidt
is false.
You have been very thorough, sir. I hope you will permit me to say we are much alike.
I am honored. Now it is time to end with Mrs. Hubbard, or should I say, Linda Arden. If Princess Dragomirov hadn't told me about her relationship with this famous actress, I might not have made the connection. But you are a great actress, madame. Your performance as a flighty, self-involved woman was superb. I never would have guessed something entirely different. As for what ties you to the Armstrong family, it is obvious.
Es evidente quién es. ¿Qué vincula a la señora Hubbard con la familia Armstrong? Madre de Sonia.
Voilà.
Voilà.
Mrs. Hubbard, you are the mother of Sonia Armstrong and Mrs.
La abuela.
Andreni.
La abuela.
Madame Hubbard, you really are a remarkable actress. You put so much effort into your character and into staging the murder. I saw it as a perfect mosaic, each person playing his
Ya
or
te
her
digo,
allotted
la
part.
abuela,
So
tío.
carefully arranged that if suspicion should fall on any one person, the evidence of one or more of the others would clear the accused person and confuse the issue. Everything was meticulously planned. But you hadn't expected that Detective Locke and I would be on this train, and the avalanche would block it on the night of the murder. You had to improvise. But again, improvisation would be another of your skills as an actress. So you came up with the story that the latch on the door that communicated with Ratchet's compartment was hidden by the handbag.
I always fancied myself in comedy parts. That slip about the sponge bag was silly. Shows you should always rehearse properly. You know all about it, Mr. Poirot. You're a very wonderful man, but even you can't quite imagine what it was like. That awful day. I was just crazy with grief. So were the servants. We decided then and there that the sentence of death that Ratchet had escaped had got to be carried
Está todo
out. There were
pactado.
12 of us, or rather 11. Suzanne's father was over in France, of course. First, we thought we'd draw lots as to who should do it, but in the end we decided on this way. It was the driver, Antonio, who suggested it. Mary worked out all the details later with Hector McQueen. It took a long time to perfect our plan. We first had to track Ratchet down. Hardman managed that in the end. Then we had to try and get Edward and Hector into his employment. Well, we managed that. Then we had a consultation with Suzanne's father. Captain Arbuthnot was very keen on having 12 of us. He seemed to think it made it more orderly. He didn't like the stabbing idea much. But he agreed that it did solve most of our difficulties. Well, Suzanne's father was willing. Suzanne had been his only child. We knew from Hector that Ratchet would be coming back from the east, sooner or later, by the Orient Express. With Pierre Michel actually working on that train, the chance was too good to be missed. My daughter's husband had to know, of course, and he insisted on coming on the train with her. Hector wrangled it so that Ratchet selected the right day for traveling when Michel would be on duty. And then, at the last minute, you came. For the rest of the story, you worked out everything, Mr. Poirot. You were right about all of us. What are you going to do about it? If it must all come out, can't you lay the blame upon me, and me only? I would have stabbed that man 12 times willingly. It wasn't only that he was responsible for my daughter's death, and her child's, and that of the other child, who might have been alive and happy now. It was more than that. There had been other children kidnapped before Daisy, and there might be others in the future. Society had condemned him. We were only carrying out the sentence, but it's unnecessary to bring all these others into it, all these good, faithful souls.
Hostia puta, tío.
You are a director of the company, Monsieur Bouc. What do you say?
In my opinion, Poirot, the first theory you put forward was the correct one. Decidedly so. I suggest that is the solution we offer to the police. You agree, Doctor?
Certainly, I agree. As regards the medical evidence, I think that I made one or two fantastic suggestions.
Then, having placed my solution before you, I have the honor to retire from the case.
solucionado, resuelto. Y final, familia. Y final de juego. Qué guapo, tú. Qué guapo.
I'm sorry to wake you up in the middle of the night, Poirot, but it couldn't wait. There was a detail that bothered me in my preliminary autopsy of Ratchet's body. I went back to examine the body and I discovered a wound covered by another. The blow I hadn't seen was delivered by a thinner, sharper blade. So there were not 12, but 13 stab wounds.
12 stabs for 12 jurors. It doesn't work with 13 wounds. The symmetry is destroyed.
It can't be one of the culprits who stabbed him twice?
Doctor, a different knife was used. There is only one explanation. Somehow, some way, there is a 13th murderer on this trail.
13º asesino.
We must tell Book. The case is not solved.
Vale, pensaba yo que era el final. No. No es el final. Orient Express, 18 de diciembre de 2023, las 9 de la mañana. Vale.
Please, come in. Ah, Book. I see we are moving at last.
Sí.
The way was finally cleared while we slept. If all goes well, we will arrive in Venice this evening. The train will be there for several hours for refueling and
comernos
reprovisioning.
unas
What do we
pizza.
do with the 13th murderer? Do you have a
Una
lead?
pisita.
I thought about it. There is one clue that was left aside in my investigation. The diary I found in Ratchet's safe mentioned an appointment in Venice. Someone with the initials A.W. He will never keep the appointment. But there should be enough time. I must try to keep that appointment for him.
Hola, el encuentro con Ratchet. ¿Dónde y cuándo iba a tener lugar el encuentro con Ratchet? Hostia. En la Fontana, ¿no? Ciudad Venecia. Las... ¿Cuánto ha dicho? ¿En un par de horas? Las 11, día 16, es que no lo sé. A ver. Es que no... No me... A ver.
No. I must admit I do not think...
Vale, a las 10. Vale. Voilà. Vale, nuevo misterio descubierto. Nuevo rastrito, familia. El encuentro con Ratchet. La cita es esta noche a las 10 en Venecia, en la Fontana del Conigli. Encuentra a tu Hastings. Tengo que encontrar a alguien que pueda ayudarme con mi investigación en Venecia. Normalmente me ayuda mi amigo Hastings, pero esta vez tendré que buscar a otra persona. No sé si será Book o no. Habla con el doctor Constantine. Vale. Vamos a ir a hablar con el doctor. Y tenemos que encontrar a nuestro Hastings.
I don't have time for small talk.
Vale. ¿Dónde estará el doctor? A ver. Vamos a venir ya por aquí.
How would it look to the police
Vale.
if I asked a suspected murderer for help?
¿Qué tenemos aquí en el 105? What? Vale.
I don't have time for small talk.
Vale. Vamos a tener que ir... 101. What? No hay nadie, tío. Vale, vámonos. Tendremos que ir al restaurante o al vagón del restaurante o al vagón del bar o algo de esto, ¿vale? Así que vamos, familia. Sin perder tiempo. No sé dónde estará el doctor. Pero, a ver, aquí encontramos por aquí. Bueno, el doctor lo tenemos aquí. Perfecto.
Doctor, a moment. Have you made arrangements for Ratchet's body?
Yes, it will be collected by the Italian authorities when we reach Venice. The autopsy will be performed there. However, there is something odd.
Oh?
Since the train is French, jurisdiction must be shared. When I told them you were already on the scene, they have both agreed to support your investigation until we reach Paris. Ratchet's compartment will be sealed until we arrive there. All of those who conspired to kill Ratchet are to be confined to the train until then as well.
So, thanks to you, I am the rope in a tug of war between two countries.
Oh, but I thought you would want to be in charge. And isn't it odd we continue on our journey with a trainload of people that police consider potential murderers?
Calm yourself, Doctor. It is not the first time I find myself in the middle. And to be honest, I welcome the chance to see this case through. It is fast becoming one of the most challenging of my career.
Vale, hemos hablado ya. ¿Todo en orden?
So, my dear book, how does our journey progress?
We are well on our way to Venice. All of our passengers are locked in their rooms by order of the authorities. I watch them when they want to stretch their legs, like the captain there behind you.
I see that you have the situation well in hand. Would you be able to accompany me to Venice to follow a lead?
I'm honored you asked me, my friend. I would have loved to help you. But I have to manage the situation here. I must make sure no one gets off the train in Venice and that Ratchet's body is transferred.
Vale. Vamos a hablar con este.
I'm not going to ask a murderer to help me catch
Vale, entonces, ¿quién podría ser? Ah. Vale. Ya sé quién puede ser a lo mejor. Esta.
Mademoiselle Locke, you are
Locke.
clearly an excellent police officer. Could you accompany me to Venice for an investigation into Ratchet's activities? There is much we still need to know.
Well, yes. It would be an honor to work with you. And I'm glad you trust me. What do you have in mind?
There was a notation in Ratchet's appointment book. He had an appointment.
With who?
There were only the initials A.W. They were to
W.
meet at 10 o'clock at the Fontana dei Conigli. I want to know who Ratchet was meeting and why.
But you've already discovered the 12 conspirators. Why is this meeting important?
Unfortunately, the case is not complete. Dr. Constantine has discovered the presence of a 13th stab wound.
One of them could have stabbed him twice.
The wound was made with another, finer blade. Why would one of them have used two knives? Did they want to confess they killed him more than the others? And if so, why bother to deny it when they have already confessed? No, it makes no sense. And I do not close a case until all questions have been answered. You, of all people, must understand this.
You're right. I do understand. I'll help you.
Thank you. Together, we will uncover the truth. We will arrive in a few hours. Take the opportunity to rest.
I slept well last night. No more effects of the drug.
Excellent. Then be prepared when we reach.
Hay una mosca por culera por aquí, gente. Qué asco. La madre que las parió. Vale, encontramos a nuestro Hastings. Vale.
This is the third embarking dock, and no gondoliers available at all.
Venecia, 18 de diciembre de 2023.
With Carnival, you can't find a gondolier to cross that damn canal. They're all booked. The worst thing is that the fountain is just across this canal. We're almost there.
Qué guapo, tú. Venecia. Me gustaría ir a Venecia. Sí. Vale, familia.
I see a gondolier just over there.
El misterioso encuentro en Venecia. Vale, familia, pues vamos a ir dejando por aquí capitulazo de hoy, ¿eh? Parecía que se iba a acabar, la cosa, pero no se acababa. Yo creo que le queda todavía un par de horitas y algo al juego. O sea, al juego, sí. Al juego, lo he dicho bien. Un par de horitas y algo, yo creo que le quedan. Yo creo que un par de capítulos más le vamos a dar caña, ¿vale, familia? Y lo dicho, está la cosa súper interesante. A ver con quién se iba a reunir Ratchet. Lo veremos en el siguiente capítulo. Y nada, familia, como os digo siempre, si os mola el contenido, lo podéis agradecer con un gran likeazo. Si no estáis suscritos, suscribiros, no cuesta nada, es tan solo un clic. Y apoyáis a un servidor como yo y familia. Nos vemos en el siguiente vídeo. ¡Hasta luego!